Adunni was born into a small Yoruba village in Nigeria. Even as a little baby, people could see that Adunni was not a beautiful child. Her skin was marked with dark spots. As Adunni grew older, the other children were cruel to her. They called her names like Ugly Adunni and laughed at her looks. At home, life was hard for Adunni too. Her father had died when she was a baby, and her mother struggled to support Adunni and her 4 brothers alone. "Useless girl," her mother would yell when Adunni tired to help with chores. "You are so ugly and stupid, no man will ever marry you." Adunni's older brothers were also ashamed of her looks. They would hit her and blame her for their troubles. By the time Adunni was a teenager, Adunni felt very alone. She tried to focus on being kind and helpful since she didn't have beauty. Each day she fetched water for her family, cooked, cleaned, and went to the market to sell vegetables from their small garden. But still, her mother and brother treated her like a servant, not family. In the afternoons, Adunni liked to sit under a big tree outside her village. She would take out a notebook and practice writing stories. She dreamed that one day she could write tales that would inspire and give hope to people. Her village did not think much of educating girls, but the kind old teacher had taught her when the boys were not around. One sunny day, Adunni was writing her notebook when she heard footsteps. She looked up to see some of the boys from the village coming towards her. "What are you doing under our tree, Ugly Adunni?" one called out. Adunni ran home in tears, her arms and legs covered in bruises from the boys' attack. "See what happens to you when you go wandering like a foolish girl," her mother angrily told her. But Adunni kept returning to her tree, the only place she found some peace. A few years later, word spread through the village that the king's eldest son was beginning to look for wife. All the village girls started preening and primping, hoping to catch his eye. The village boys mocked Adunni mercilessly, saying an ugly girl like her could only get a husband through black magic. Even grown women made bad remarks. But Adunni held her head high and tried not to cry. She continued studying her books and writing in her notebooks when she found the chance. She helped an elderly widow in the village with household chores and visited a sick old man to keep him company. Seeing the old man reminded Adunni of her own father, and she thought maybe her father would have been proud of the person she was becoming, even if others couldn't see it. One afternoon, as she left the sick old man's hut, Adunni heard commotion back in the center of the village. She was surprised to see the prince himself riding towards her. Women and children were bowing down in awe before the handsome, richly dressed prince. "You there!" the prince called out. "I want to speak with you." Adunni nervously approached the prince, confused why he was addressing her in front of the whole villagers. "They tell me your name is Adunni," the prince said. "I have asked many people about you while moving around the village. People speak of a kind, bright girl who helps anyone in need, a girl who continues to hold her head high despite cruelty of those around her." Adunni was stunned. No one had ever praised her in this way. How could the prince know about her small, private moments of writing and helping others when no one was watching? "What they do not mention is your beauty," the prince continued. "But true beauty lies within." The handsome prince leaned down from his horse. "Adunni, I have decided I would like you to return with me as my wife," the prince said. Gasps of disbelief echoed around the village. Tears sprang to Adunni's eyes. She looked into the face of the smiling, kind prince and knew in her heart that he was sincere. "Yes, your highness, I will marry you," she declared. Prince Adeyemi helped Adunni onto a magnificent horse beside her own. As they rode out of the village, little girls watched with admiration and awe. With time, Adunni grew more confident and blossomed into a wise and talented queen. 10 years after marrying Prince Adeyemi, now King Adeyemi, Adunni returned to her village with her 2 young daughters and infant son. Adunni visited the widow she once helped with housework, and the sick old man's hut where she used to keep him company. She was overjoyed to see both of them. As Adunni walked through the town, people stopped and stared in wonder at the beautiful, confident woman she had become. Proudly by her side stood King Adeyemi and their children, 2 bright princesses and a smart prince. Adunni stopped beneath the big tree on the outskirts of the village. The place that was once her refuge now held only happy memories. From the shadow stepped an elderly woman leaning on a walking stick. Adunni looked up surprised to see the mother she had not spoken to in years. Adunni rose to embrace her. "Oh, my daughter, can you ever forgive me?" her mother whispered. surprised by the elegant and confident woman Adunni had become. Adunni smiled gently. That day, Adunni and her mother talked for hours, healing the wounds of the past. And under the branches of the big tree, Adunni told wondrous tales from the palace to the village children, stories she once only dreamed of writing someday. I believe you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comments. Goodbye.